blindly relying on the database tuning advisor, and maybe I should rephrase this to just ever using the database tuning advisor. The database tuning advisor, or DTA, is one of those things that comes with SQL Server, and it's basically a component you can turn on that will monitor the load on your system and come up with a bunch of suggestions for indexes and statistics based on the workload. Now, when it creates indexes, it generally has DTA included in the index name, so we're able to see what indexes were created by the database tuning advisor over time. But the thing is, I don't know. I mean, the way I've looked at this over time, and I've said this before, is that because SQL Server is licensed on a CPU or core-based licensing, if Microsoft wanted to come up with a way to sell you more licenses, it would be to create a tool that goes and adds a bunch of junk into your database that maybe bloats it and makes you think things are improving. But over time, you have to end up buying more licenses because it's so bloated with all this junk. I don't know, Mitch, is that an unreasonable assessment there, or?
I think that's a fair assessment. I mean, DTA just looks at what SQL Server needs without recommend or looking at the true cost of what it's going to put in. SQL Server will just say, "Hey, this would be really handy if you would put an index on this," but it doesn't consider that this index is massive. Just it is a hog that will take up everything that can be thrown at it.
An example of that is if you're familiar with the include statement on indexes, where you have here's 4 or 5 or 10 columns or whatever that's your main index columns, and then you include like every other column from the table in the include section. Well, yeah, the DTA has a lot of those, and I find that if you were to analyze what was there and get rid of the includes and maybe just have those things that are in the index itself, it would be way more efficient. And so the alternative that we offer on this, I mean, there's a lot of different alternatives, but missing index DMVs, looking at execution plans and understanding what indexes are missing, using the query store, or using Database Health Monitor with like some of our missing index suggestions, or the SQL Performance Monitor that we have in Database Health Monitor that will catch the indexes that are needed right now that'll help with the queries running in memory. Now, with that, I say it'll catch them. It's not going to go and add them automatically, but with any of these, you're going to want to look at what indexes are being suggested and then look at what indexes are already there. And it might be that whatever tool you're using is going to recommend something very similar to what's already there, and you need to determine, will there be actual value added by adding this index? I know in Database Health Monitor, we have some reports that show things like inefficient indexes, and oftentimes some of those DTA indexes are huge and they show up in there as not being used efficiently. And what not being used efficiently generally refers to in that environment is that there's lots of updates, but that there's very few usages of that index. Anything else on DTA before we move on, Mitch?
Like you said, with indexes, we always test them after adding. And if we have index suggestions, we always say test it, make sure it's running as expected, and keep an eye on what's happening, because you don't want to add, like you said, an index that seems useful and just never gets used. So that's a very important note to indexing. It's a balance to run.
Oh yeah, for sure. Thanks for watching. I'm Steve, and I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you like it, please click the thumbs up icon. And if you want to subscribe, click subscribe to our channel and click the bell icon to get notified when we have new videos. All right, have a great day.